Congratulations. If you're watching this video, then you are seriously considering going on a mission, or you're helping someone who is considering going on a mission. And let me tell you that this is going to be the best decision of your life. I mean, it will set you up in so many ways. The blessings are just immeasurable. So you're going to love it. I've never met someone who regretted going on a mission. So Stephen Covey once put it, the best place to start is with the end in mind. So let's talk about this, how to get started here. Okay, so the church has a web page here, and I just Googled planning when to serve a mission. And this is a very good tool in helping you know when to submit your papers. There is a rule that says the stake president cannot submit your papers more than 120 days before you're available to serve. And they call that your availability date. So that's the date you would want to go to the MTC. Now, 120 days, that's slightly less than 4 months. So I did a little math. Let's say you wanted to leave in August 1st. 120 days before would be April 3rd. It's very close to 4 months. So here's what this tool, here's a screenshot of what this tool looks like. If you wanted to get released on July the 1st, 2025, that's where you want to end your mission. These are the dates that they recommend that the stake president submits your papers. Okay. They also have another tool which is very similar that is focused more on just the submission date. Okay, so it's this next page. If you were to submit your papers on the 4th week of March, this is the possible MTC start dates. So when you put these two together, it is a very good tool to help you figure out when do you need to get your papers submitted. Well, it depends on when you want to return from your mission, when you want to go to the MTC, so forth. So there is some work to be done before you submit the stake president submits your papers. So I made this little timeline that kind of puts it all together. So let's start with the end. Your availability date, when you want to go to the MTC. Well, 2 to 4 months before that, you really need the stake president to submit the papers. And so this is the submission date. Okay, after you submit, the stake president submits the papers to the church. Around 2 to 4 weeks later, you will get a mission call, the one that, that every one of us remember. You will also at that point usually you receive your priesthood ordination, then you go to the temple. The time between the stake president submits your papers and you actually go to the MTC. Well, before the stake president submits the papers, they have to do a series of interviews. There's actually 3 major interviews. So one of them is obviously to go on a mission, your mission interviews. Another one is to go to the temple for the first time. That is a major interview. And then for priesthood holders, you also have an interview to receive the Melchizedek priesthood. So those are 3 separate interviews. I've noticed that the stake president takes all 3 of these very seriously. So many times you'll have different members of the stake presidency involved in the interviews. So you might actually get an interview with all 3 members of the stake presidency to cover these 3 major interviews. So that kind of coordination, availability sometimes takes up to a month. 2 weeks to a month is what I've noticed. Well, before you can do those interviews, you really need to initiate and start your application. And those are your interviews with me. Now, I will admit, step 1 and 2, some of these things can overlap a little bit. For example, let's say that you're working on a few follow-up issues with your doctor. Sometimes the stake president will get started with some of the interviews while you're waiting for that to pan out. So, so this is not exactly as rigid as it's described here. But this is the overall picture. Basically, the take-home message is, if you want to go on a mission sometime in the summer, you really need to start in the winter, getting ready, and vice versa. If you want to go on a mission sometime in the winter, you probably should get started in the summer. Okay, so let's talk about our very next steps. This is stage 1 for in preparing. Okay, So you need to have a patriarchal blessing. Okay, I will need to initiate your application online to start your missionary application online. After that, you can set up an account. So you set up an account with the Missionary Online Recommendation Center. This is the website you go onto. And then at that point, you can start filling out the application. In conjunction with the application, you'll need to get your dental work and your medical work done. So the dental work, sometimes it takes a little time to get your wisdom teeth taken out, and you have to schedule that. So be aware of that. That may take a little bit longer. So some people even suggest getting your wisdom teeth taken out before you even start your missionary paperwork. But in the end, you want all your dental work done and your dentist to sign the form. Same thing with your doctor. Get your immunization shots, get your doctors to sign your health evaluation form. There's also an insurance and privacy agreement forms that go along with your application that you'll have to sign those. Just to kind of show you real quick, let me see if I can do this. Okay. This is a paper version of the application. You can see it's 29 pages here. The first part, and I would recommend everyone read this, these are the interview questions for the missionary. And many of these interview questions are very similar to the temple recommendation questions and very similar to the priesthood ordination questions. They are more in depth than the typical temple recommend questions, especially when it comes to the law of chastity. They ask a little more detail about, they go into more depth about the law of chastity. All right, so just kind of comb through here. These are a lot of these forms are capturing your demographic information, educational background, your health information, physician's forms, and so forth. Okay. All right, let me go back to this. So those are your next steps. It's very exciting. Now, there's a couple of places on the question, I think a couple of areas on your application that sometimes are a little bit tricky. So the medical forms, the state president really wants to have the original copies of those forms. So your doctor will sign them, you get the hard copy. I would probably scan and save them, but the originals do go to the state president. Same on the mission photos, our state president would like to have very, he's a little more particular about the mission photos. So the mission photos, he wants them on a white background and to look like a missionary. So that means suit and tie or dress, just look like a missionary. Make sure your hair is combed and well-groomed, clean-shaven, that kind of thing. As far as some of the health preparations, going on a mission is physically demanding. So they do want you to have a certain body mass index, no greater than 37. There's some online tools to calculate that. There are some minor exceptions if someone's body mass index is slightly too high, but they're, the way their body is built, they're these athletes, and so there is a little wiggle room there, but in general, this is the guideline what they suggest. Okay, here's the biggest thing. We want to be spiritually prepared for the mission. If the blessings that come along with serving a mission are easier to access if you are spiritually prepared. And what I would recommend is to start thinking, okay, I want to feel the Spirit every day. That to me is the biggest way to prepare. It's a simple question, but that is just look at yourself and say, am I feeling the Spirit every day? If not, what can I do to start doing that? And that is a very good way to start getting ready for your mission. Of course, the church has some missionary prep. Our state does not have a missionary prep course. Currently, our course is to go out with the missionaries. They have a mini mission program where you go out with the missionaries. And if that's not available, they recommend, well, just go with the missionaries. Make it a normal part of your life to go with the missionaries. So you can go every week for a couple hours every week. It is a very good way to get ready for that mission. So feel the Spirit daily. Go out with the missionaries. It's a good way to get spiritually prepared to start your mission. Now, I have some other points here because it's very similar to the youth development program. And that is, all of us are human, and some of us are struggling with some bad habits. That's very normal. That's very human. If you are trying to work through something like that, let's say it's with the law of chastity or something like that, What you would want to do, what I recommend, is come up with a separate and replace strategy. So, and that's something that we can do. We can talk one-on-one about that. You can talk to your parents about that, but come up with a strategy to take steps towards Christ and take steps away from the bad habit. It's as simple as that. I also recommend having an accountability plan for your replacement and separate and replace strategy. So that may be weekly interviews with a bishop. It may be journaling, and you're accounting to your own journal, something with your parents. There's also accountability partner. There's a lot of strategies like that. I'd be glad to meet with you and talk to you about making a customized accountability plan for you. There is one thing I put down right here: success equals progress. Sometimes, when we're working on some spiritual or personal development strategy, there's ups and downs, and sometimes we succeed and sometimes we have setbacks. It's really important to keep in mind that true success is that you are trying and that you're making progress overall. I would not measure success by any particular day, the ups or the downs, but rather just look at the process and say, are we making progress? Then you're succeeding. You're doing great. Sometimes people get discouraged and frustrated. And I love the Aaronic priesthood quorum theme right here. Never forget this. This is the first sentence of this theme that they read out. I am a beloved son of God, and he has work for me to do. And that is exactly what we have here. Serving a mission is a fantastic way to serve the Lord. And the blessings that come from that are just, you're going to create memories that you'll never forget. You're going to create friendships that you'll cherish forever. But the friendship that you will fortify the most is the one that you have with your Savior. You will learn to grow close to him and learn to love his children as you serve them. And you will learn, as you learn to serve like him, you will learn to love like him. And that is worth every effort. And I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.